We have a very special guest alert because on today's show, we are bringing on newest Chargers safety, Tony Jefferson, San Diego native, coming on the show to talk about why he picked the Chargers, why he came out of retirement, and why he loves the opportunity he has in front of him.
You are Locked On Chargers, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Chargers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, and welcome into the Locked On Chargers podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Wade, joined as always by my co-host, David Drogemeyer, and this is our 9th season covering the Chargers, but this is our 7th year as the host of the Locked On Chargers podcast, bringing you your team every day. Thank you to the everydayers out there for making us your first listen, and if you want to make sure you don't miss big episodes like today with Tony Jefferson, go subscribe or follow for free on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel and listen wherever you get your podcast from. And I'm so stoked. Such a good show we have for you guys today with Tony Jefferson, who couldn't be more excited and ready for this opportunity to try to make the Chargers. And hey, he said he's not coming to take part. He's coming to take over. He doesn't see this as just a one-year thing. He's trying to get his career back on track and have that be with the Chargers. But today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. As playoffs wind down, the sports stop sporting like we want them to, but this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right, there's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Here he is, Tony Jefferson. All right, guys, here we are with our very special guest, a San Diego native, one of the Chargers' newest signings, someone we are very excited to see on the team now, getting ready to try to make this 53-man roster. We have safety Tony Jefferson on the show. Hey, man, thank you so much for your time. We're super excited to have you on.
Glad to be on. Appreciate it. Super excited, bro, to be able to put that Bolts helmet on, bro. Y'all,
man, I bet. Yeah, man. Well, let's start there. You grew up in San Diego and played football at Eastlake High School when the Chargers were still playing at Qualcomm. So, how cool is that? What is that like for you, towards the end of your career to get a chance to play for the team you rooted for growing up?
Man, it's still surreal. It's honestly still surreal. I got just so many memories of me just watching. I mean, back then, the Chargers were rolling, bro.
Yes,
I could just think of just London Fletcher, LaDainian Tomlinson, Darren Sproles, all these guys, even David Boston, even players people probably outside of San Diego don't remember, but they were legends to me. Junior Seau, his restaurant down in I just wanted to go down there because it was his, And I remember for my birthday, my parents got me the Junior Seau jersey, and I cried for 2 hours because I was just so excited to be able to have his jersey, that navy blue, man. So it's surreal. I'm super excited. I'm trying to make the most out of this opportunity, honestly.
No question about it. I mean, hey, after a very successful career, you retired last season, and we didn't see you at all in 2023. What was the moment over the last year when you decided you still had some gas left in the tank and you wanted to come out of retirement and play again?
Yeah, so honestly, I was scouting. Obviously, I think everybody knows that I took the year off and I was scouting, and going through training camp, I'm watching. I'm like, okay, maybe I'll be all right. Not playing, seeing these guys out here in the heat, going crazy, blah, blah, blah. But then week 1 hit, and, I go down on the field pregame, and I start sizing the guys up and stuff, and, looking at them, man, and just the atmosphere and the feeling, mentally, the guys getting ready for the game. I just missed all that. And then, going into scouting, I had a plan. I wanted to see if I would be okay with not playing. And that simply just wasn't the case, at all. I just was let me see where I'm at the end of it. And I couldn't wait, for the scout to be over so I can get back to it. And I got back to it. And here we are.
And we're super excited to see you on the squad now. And what you're trying to do, honestly, is pretty rare. You don't see players being able to come back after taking a year off and be able to find it. But for us, from the first moment we saw it, we were just this feels right? This feels like a different kind of situation, especially with some of the connections that you have with the Chargers. But what about the Chargers specifically? Because I know you want to play for them, you root for them, all of those things. But for yourself, you're trying to give yourself the best chance to latch on with the team and make an impact, right? And be a consistent player and find your way onto a 53-man roster. So what was it about the Chargers situation that you saw and said, that's the right move for me? That's where I can go and potentially make the team.
Yeah. So honestly, I got a lot of familiarity with obviously a lot of people on the staff and in the front office with Joe Hortiz. But I did have other opportunities. I was, before I went to committed to going to the mini camp, I had a tryout for another team that, I was pretty much set on doing. But once, me and Joe had a conversation, I felt like this was the best opportunity for me just because, close to home. It's the Chargers. And, I'm familiar with the scheme with Jesse Minter. Once when I got to the Ravens, Jesse was he's like our assistant DB coach. So me and him already had that relationship and that rapport, since I was in Baltimore. And it just felt right. It just felt right that this was a good opportunity. And, I canceled my workout with the other team and I came here.
Love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and I think like just where you come from matters. And I think what the Chargers are trying to do here is really interesting, because one of the things we talk about all the time is like, you can't just flip a switch, right? And be a physical, hard-nosed, blue-collar team. Like, it doesn't work like that, right? I think it's a combination of coaching, the type of players that you're bringing in, and all of that stuff. And I just think that where you came from with the Ravens, where you spent the most time, right, they're known for that. And maybe that's because it's John Harbaugh, but honestly probably even predates him to the early years of Ray Lewis and Ed Reed and all those dudes who just went out there and did it on a daily basis. But it feels similar to what the Chargers are trying to build with Jim Harbaugh. Like, when you look at the teams that do that already in the NFL, I think you would look at the Ravens and say, that's kind of the model. That's what you want to look like. That's how you kind of be a team that other teams don't want to play on Sunday. So do you think that your style of play kind of fits what the Chargers want to do in this new era?
Yeah, I think it does. Anybody who has watched my tape knows that I'm a physical guy in Baltimore. Before every game, coaches, players would be like, TJ, set the tone, because, I really was the enforcer on the defense. So I knew, before the game and going into the game, like, yeah, I like interceptions, but at the same time, I like hitting people coming across the middle because, after that first time, I started to notice once I hit somebody hard, or a receiver come across the middle, it kind of changed the game for him a little bit. You know what I mean? So that's kind of just, it's just kind of my mentality. I'm physical, and I think that's kind of what we're building here. I look at the linebackers, you see Denzel Perryman. I've watched his film a lot, and he's a physical guy. He likes to hit hard, and that's my style of play too. And we've already hit it off. Me and him are we're cool, hanging out and stuff and everything. So, got the same mindset. So that thing just kind of clicked there too. So I'm really excited about what they're building. I'm just happy I can be part of it. And I want to, like, for me, a lot of people are like, so you think you're going to make the 50? Like, for me, I'm going in it as I'm trying to have the best season of my career. Like, I had a year off. My body feels perfect. Like, I haven't felt this like fresh and like renewed since I can remember. So I'm going into it with a fresh mind and a fresh body, and I'm trying to. I'm not really focused on proving people wrong and whatnot. I'm just trying to prove myself right and just go out there. And I think for me, being fresh, I want to have the best season of my career. That's my mindset. So
I love that. I love that mindset. That's fantastic.
Not taking part, taking over.
Yeah.
Yep. And one of the benefits of you having, trying to make the team is your familiarity with the new defensive coordinator, Jesse Minter. You talked about that a little bit, who was one of your position coaches with your time, with the Ravens. Are you surprised at all at how quickly he's been able to rise through the ranks and become an NFL defensive coordinator?
Surprised, no. Jesse has always been cerebral and smart, even from the days where he was assistant DB coach. Like, you could ask him. I would go ahead to him and ask all the questions, honestly, before I would even ask our actual DB coach. We were just on the same page, and I loved how he was able to connect and explain things to a player from that perspective. And I felt like I got it easier, when I spoke to him. So I'm really looking forward to that relationship even building even more. And yeah.
We have more great stuff with Tony Jefferson coming up right after this, including all of the different things he got to see and how much tape he was watching on the scouting side of things, coming up and more on today's Locked On Chargers podcast. First, though, I need to tell you guys about FanDuel because I love sports. I love them so much and I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games and the sports aren't sportsing like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open up the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day all summer long. That's not just first-time customers. That's any customers get a boost or a bonus every single day. But guess what? The playoffs aren't done yet. And Dan is sweating because it is game 7 tonight, and I'm all in on my Ice Cats. You can get the Panthers at -1.5 at +230, but I'm looking at the captain, Alexander Barkov, anytime goal scorer to get in on the action when his team needs him the most to really stay away from historic embarrassment. Sasha Barkov, Alexander Barkov at +300 to score tonight. So head over to FanDuel.com/lockedon and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. That's a great point you bring up there, just about how he explained everything and all of that, because last couple of years under Brandon Staley, it felt like something was getting lost from Brandon Staley to the position coaches, and just there were so many broken coverages and things like that. It just felt like there was something along the way that was getting broken up. So like, you can have the perfect scheme, but if the guys don't know what they're doing in it, right, or if that not everyone's on the same page on every snap, it doesn't really matter that much, right? So like, I think one thing you saw is like they were trying to be perfect so much and have the perfect coverages, but the problem is when you're trying to do that, if one of those 11 dudes isn't exactly where they're supposed to be or playing the right leverage, it doesn't matter, and you're giving up explosive plays either way. So how important is that from a defensive coaching staff to be able to kind of relay that and be able to kind of tell you guys exactly what they need from you, and also trying to find the balance of letting you kind of know the scheme and kind of freestyle a little bit and do what you want to do as far as making, disguising coverages and things like that?
Yeah, I think that's huge. I can't speak really on last year with the Chargers, but I can speak on basically what I've experienced in this system. It allows you to have the freedom and the tools to be able to make different adjustments as players on the field. Based off of what you see, based off of film study, you have those tools available, and communication is key. In Baltimore, we go by the motto, communication breeds understanding. And I think that process can't be lost in the whole grand scheme of things. I think communication, whether something bad happens on a player, whether something good happens on a player, I think communication's the key to most of that. And as long as guys are in the back end are relaying the calls and getting it to the front and everything, I think the mindset will be have the offense adjust to us and not us adjusting to the offense.
Yeah, so I mean, Jesse Minter, what we talked about, was one of your position coaches, but Wink Martindale was your defensive coordinator when you played with the Ravens. How much different is this defense you're going to play in this year versus what you were doing with Wink back in the day?
So Wink was awesome. My defensive coordinator when I played with the Giants in 22. Mm-hmm. So that was my most recent DC playing. And, they got similarities. I think obviously the scheme's the same. A lot of the verbiage and all that's the same. But I think what Mike McDonald and Jesse has kind of tweaked and made adjustments to make the defense even more scarier is just mixing up different coverages and mixing up different blitzes and really making it very hard for the offense to really understand where we're coming from and doing it in a way where it's calculated. It's not just, okay, it's 3rd and 5. Okay, we're blitzing 0, or like we're simulated blitzes and disguising and really making it tough for the offense to understand where we're coming from, or not creating a pattern so that they can pick up on it. And that's what I talk about when I say having them have to adjust to us.
Yeah, and I think the great thing about that is, like, one of the things we've seen, especially with the Chargers and where they've kind of fallen short in years past, is just at the end of games, you got to have those answers, right? And you can't be predictable, and you can't have the other team know what's going to happen, or it's going to end up like a lot of the Chargers close games have, right? Where they're losing, more one-score games in the last few seasons than anyone else in the league. But it is very interesting because I think you have seen players take a year off, but you don't see a lot of players jump straight into scouting and then come back and be like, you know what, actually, I'm ready to play again. And I just wonder, like, was Joe Hortiz your boss and you're reporting to Joe Hortiz every day? Did you guys have a relationship in that front office? And also just like, were you able to pick up anything different from the game? Was there anything about the game that you realized getting to kind of see it from that side of things?
Yeah, so Joe was the director of college scouting.
On your pro side.
And I was on the pro side, but towards the end of the year, I shifted towards college because they were really impressed with my ability to basically pick up on the talent and write reports and stuff. So I got to take that next step pretty quicker than most people did. So I got to get some colleges towards the end. And yeah, I mean, me and Joe, even when I was playing, me and Joe had a good relationship and we were cool. But I had to send reports and write reports to him on some players, and it was cool because some of those players got drafted, and I gave him some draftable grades on like the smaller schools, so I felt good about that. So in my mind, I'm like, I know I could go back and do that. But as I was scouting, I watched so much film, bro, and I picked up like so many like tendencies and like because like when you're watching film, you start to realize like, geez, everybody's kind of running the same thing like on offense. It's like it's a copycat league. That's what they say.
Yeah.
And you just start to pick up on that stuff on third downs, third and short, 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4. What are we getting if they're passing? It's going to be mesh routes because obviously you don't really want to play zone because you're going to have open up holes and give them a first down. So guys are going to be manned up. So everybody's going to run mesh routes. So guys are going to be running each other, crossers and all that type of stuff. And you just start picking up on tendencies. So I felt like seeing the game from the Eagle's eye and just watching it from that perspective, I learned even more. I felt like I became greater as like a film watcher. Like now I just got off the iPad watching film. Like I'm like addicted to the iPad. Like it's crazy. Like that's all I really do is like watch film. So I felt like that's going to help me as a player, just, being smart. I was talking to Weddle and he's like, hey, bro, when I signed with the Ravens, I was 31 going on 32 and I signed a 4-year deal. So don't go in there thinking, you're at the end of your career and doing all that. Like, so that's really my mindset. And that's really just how I'm moving forward. And I'm so happy that I got to see it from the other side and then come back because I think that's going to help me.
Yeah. Do you think that knowledge of the game that you now have, I mean, obviously throughout your playing career and, seeing it from the scouting side, now that you get back on the field, do you feel like that's going to allow you to play faster and not have to think as much because you've been able to see so much on film?
Yeah, 100%. And as I was scouting, I'm like, man, if I got back up on the field, I feel like I could play even a little faster just because anticipation, especially as a DB, anticipation is everything. That's the difference between a ball getting caught on you, a pass breakup, or an interception. And if you can be just a split second faster, that's a game changing play. And that's where I feel like where I think I could take the next step at right now.
Yeah, which is awesome. I mean, and especially I think they want you to come in here to set the tone. But maybe, I mean, from the way things were going with the Ravens, maybe a 3-year stint with the Chargers, you step in under Joe Hortiz in this front office, start scouting for the Chargers, maybe we can set something like that up, right?
We'll see. I got a lot of work to do. Obviously, nothing's set in stone. I got to go out there and prove myself. I got to go in these preseason games and show everybody really what I got still and all that. And I got to make the 53 roster because there's talent back there. And I'm like I said, I'm trying to reinvent myself basically.
We have more great stuff with Tony Jefferson coming up right after this, including his relationship with Derwin James and playing kind of a similar style of football and more in today's Locked On Chargers podcast. Yeah, and I mean, there's some young guys in that room too. You're going to be going up against, right? And I'm sure
Yeah,
that's kind of a delicate balance of, you're thought of as this guy, veteran guy that's seen a lot around the league, and you're trying to make your own spot, right? And now these other
right.
guys are coming and asking you questions and stuff like that. But I think it's also a fine balance, when you're kind of looking at the micro and like, okay, I need to make the team this year. I need to make the most out of this upcoming practice and this
Yeah,
upcoming preseason game. But also looking at the macro and saying like, but it doesn't have to be me coming back for just this one season, right? Like
yeah,
this
yeah,
just has to be where I'm focused right now to have that be the launching point of me potentially getting that next contract after this upcoming season. So, I mean, that must be a fascinating thing. But one of the things that had to be great to hear kind of in your camp was Derwin James getting up at his last press conference and advocating for you to be on the team. You can just tell the reverence he kind of had for you when he was speaking about you. And he also specifically said that he wanted you to get signed because it would help him move around more and give him the ability to be more versatile. So how familiar were you with Derwin James's game? Of course, you're watching all sorts of films, so I'm sure very familiar. But how excited are you to have a chance to play alongside him?
Oh man, Derwin is different. He's a different guy. You don't really come across players with his type of ability, his type of versatility. I got to watch Kyle Hamilton play last year, and those two guys really share similar games because they could pretty much do everything. You can line them up anywhere, and they're so effective. But I've known Derwin through the game of playing. We played the Chargers in 2018, and after the game, we showed our respect to each other, and we follow each other on Instagram. So like here, like there, like
Yeah.
stuff like
Yeah,
that.
for
But
sure.
just
You
being
guys
able
have
to,
kind of similar games too. Like, I mean, at least as far as like both of you dudes love to lay the wood. Like that
yeah,
just is what it is. I mean, you both have an affinity for, taking the big hit potentially over an interception or things along that line.
yeah, no, he's my type of guy. I'll say that, and I think we both kind of we talked a lot really about we talked about the scheme and then just other stuff about the game and stuff, and like we just connected in that way just because we're both football guys, and I got to watch him in practice, and bro, the way he practices, like there's a reason why he plays that ways on Sundays. Running to the ball, just 100 miles per hour each play. Like he's playing like it's his last play, and I love that. Like being able to see that, it like gives me chills when I'm watching. I'm like, bro, just being able to see this dude on the field right now is amazing.
And I mean, he's been a leader since he pretty much stepped on the field for the Chargers. So I mean, it's no surprise, hearing that from you about Derwin James. Derwin James is a guy that's always being talked about by Coach Harbaugh. So speaking of that Harbaugh name, you and a handful of other players have got a chance to play for Jim Harbaugh's brother, John Harbaugh. And what were your favorite parts of playing for John Harbaugh while you were there with him?
I love the fact that like he loves ball. He cares about football, and like when you have a coach who like you could tell he cares about football. Like I go on the way. I used to be I go in the weight rooms in the morning at 6:30 every morning. Harbaugh's there at 6:15, getting it in, just pumping it out. We've had great combos in the morning, and like I just love that to see your head coach just as motivated, like just getting it in. The meetings were always fun because he bleeds out his passion of the game to us each day. He'd have a story for us. He'd bring his dad in, which I love. I love when his dad came in to tell a story about how him and his brother and all them when they were younger. Stuff like that.
His dad's really intense.
Oh yeah, I love it though. Love it, and it's great to have like a coach who's like in love with the game, and he cares about his players too. So the funny thing is, when Harbaugh was at Stanford, Jim Harbaugh, he offered me, and it was my very first offer out of high school. And what happened was, the very first play I was playing running back, I had like a dive, and like I just ran somebody over, boom, boom, boom. Right after practice. He's like, "Hey, you upstairs." Offer me right on the spot.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, he's like you're my type of guy, you're the type of player I want like around, and blah blah blah. So when I saw him when I had the mini camp tryout, we talked about that too, how that happened. So it was really cool.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like he remembers everything too. Like the
Yeah.
most, I mean, as long as it's football related, right? Like
Yeah,
if
yeah,
you
anything
truck
football,
someone back
right.
in 2011, like he remembers you truck sticking someone
Yeah.
back in 2011. But
Yeah.
I guess you're probably one of the least kind of confused people when Jim Harbaugh is out there pulling a 300-pound sled or anything. You're like, yeah, when John Harbaugh was beating me to the gym, it doesn't surprise me
Yeah.
too much to see Jim out here in cleats and stuff like
Exactly.
that. But I mean, there is a certain kind of ingenuity to Jim Harbaugh though, because he's corny as hell. Like, I mean, the stuff he says is crazy sometimes, right? Like, where you're just like, yeah, I guess that makes sense. Like, you're the
Yeah.
only person in the world that would see it that way. But
Right.
like, that does have to be endearing to the players though, just because like you see a dude who's bleeds football. Like, I mean, you hear his former players talking about him. Like, there was a day where Alex Smith was hurt and he was the quarterback at practice that day and didn't tell anyone, right? It's just like, hey, Jim Harbaugh can't be here for some reason. Like, what does that mean to be able to play for someone like that and just know that your coach cares about the game and every practice and everything you're doing as much as you do?
I think it holds the players accountable, because especially him being a former player, he knows what it looks like, and he knows what it's supposed to be, and that's why I feel like he's been successful really everywhere he's been. Like he knows what it's supposed to look like. He knows what good practices are. I think I read something where he said his mood is predicated off of how practice went.
Yeah.
Like that's a guy who loves ball and is invested in the game, and he's been there. And like, to be honest, I kind of feel the same way too. My mood is predicated off of how my practice is. My mood is predicated off of how my game is. So just to have that as the leader, I think that's going to go a long way, like with the players.
All right, well, you're a Cali guy, so we'll get you out on this. You're back in California. Now you have to get in on this big dirt burger debate. Are you a Whataburger guy or are you an In-N-Out guy?
Bro, come on, bro.
You have to say it. Let them know.
Oh no, it's In-N-Out 100%.
In-N-Out all the way.
Period.
I went to Oklahoma, so Whataburger, they're like obsessed with Whataburger.
Yes, they
like,
are.
But Whataburger's burgers are so salty, and like there was no In-N-Out there, so I had to compromise, and I was
You had to make
that.
it work, right?
Yeah. So 2011, when I was in Oklahoma, they created an In-N-Out. They made an In-N-Out in Dallas, which was like 2 hours from Norman, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
So me, Kenny Stills, Brendan Clay, we're all from San Diego. We were in Oklahoma for whatever reason. And we drove down to Dallas, and the line was like wrapped. It was going to take 4 hours to get burgers. So like, people can say they don't like In-N-Out, but bro, In-N-Out's the best burgers, bro. There's really no competition. And if you're saying that, you're just delusional at this point, bro.
I agree. Honestly, one of my high school football careers, I think it was a Walter Payton football camp in San Diego, because I went to LCAP and graduated 2011. Got matched up with Brendan Clay in a one-on-one linebacker versus running back, and like covered him decently well, and the quarterback just missed the throw. And I was like, "Did you guys see that?" And that was Brendan Clay right there. He's going to Oklahoma. Like, I just locked that down, right? Just I didn't even get a second look, I got an offer from like NAU or something because of it. So, but Tony, hey, thank you so much, man. It's great to have a San Diego guy on the show. We're San Diego guys through and through. I'm so happy that you get to play for the team you grew up watching, man. We are so excited and invested in you making this team. We think you have, David's already come out and said it. You're making this team. So thank you so much for giving us your time, man. And we can't wait to see how it all unfolds.
Okay, I appreciate it, bro. San Diego love, baby.
Yes, sir. Appreciate
all right,
you,
y'all.
Tony. Thank you,
Thank
man.
y'all. All right, bro.
A very special thank you to Tony Jefferson for coming on the show today. You guys can follow him at TLJefferson23 on Twitter. You can follow him at Tony Jefferson1 on Instagram as well. Definitely want to get him back if he can make the team. That would be an awesome story for him to come back on the show, because obviously we gave him a nice boost there. But thank you again to Tony Jefferson. Thank you to David for continuing to book the best Chargers guests out there, and we will continue to have that going for you guys all summer long until we get to training camp. So make sure you guys keep following along by following and subscribing to the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel and listening wherever you get your podcast from, so you never miss a big time episode like the one we put out today. And you can also find the show every day on our social media. You can go follow us on Twitter at Locked On LAC. You can find us on Instagram at Locked On Chargers and our Locked On Chargers Facebook page. Me and David also post the show every day to our social media. So you can find me at Dan Talk Sports on Twitter and David at Dro Talk SD. And you're going to want to hit us up on all of those places, because Wednesday's show is Chargers buy or sell, getting into the biggest storylines and overreactions. So make sure you guys get those in so you can get them answered on the show. But we'll be back with you guys on Wednesday. Until then, take it easy and go Bolts.